just to give you a little bit of detail about why I'm going into this, my furnace went up in the middle of winter. It was supposed to be 20 degrees over the weekend. It went up on a Thursday. So I called my oil company, which I have a contract through, and they serviced my furnace for me, and they ran the whole diagnostic, found out what was wrong, and of course, like all great service contracts, if you can't hear my sarcasm, the part was not included. And because the part wasn't covered by that contract, neither was the labor. So the service guy that came out called the company and got a quote for me. He told me it was going to be about $600 worth of parts and $500 in labor, which gave me an $1,100 quote, which I thought seemed pretty steep. So I told him I'd want to do a little bit more research before I necessarily agreed to it. Now remember, this is a Thursday. The weekend temperatures were supposed to drop down to 20 degrees, and this is the only source of heat in my house. So in all honesty, I was really considering just jumping on this just to ensure that it got fixed. But I'm a fairly handy person, so I was a little skeptical. I asked him for some details about the parts. We talked about it just a bit. Then he told me it was probably going to be a 2-person job, which was why the labor was so expensive. And then he said I needed to make my decision then because they wouldn't be able to get the parts in time. They'd have to try to send somebody out on the weekend, which they most likely wouldn't be able to. So it wouldn't be until Monday when they'd be able to send somebody out unless I decided then and there. And that's when my little red flag went off and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm about to get ripped off. I mean, come on. Anyway, I'm not going to continue on this tangent, but that's what they quoted me, $1,100. So I decided to do some research and some digging. So this is the motor that actually went up in my power venter. It's the SWGII power venter system that I have, and the motor costs $220. I could have just gotten this and replaced the motor, probably more quickly than what I actually did, but the housing itself was getting a little rusted and banged up, so I just decided to replace the entire power venter, which cost me about $120 more. You can see this is $340 as compared to the $220 motor, but it's going to last me a lot longer. And it's not the exact model number, the SWGII, but this does fit perfectly right into the same exact screw holes without any adjustments. So let's jump into the replacement. Here's the old SWGII-4HD, and you can see it from the outside of my house. It's connected into my oil furnace. I'm going to start by switching off the breaker so that it no longer has power to it. Now in this picture, those green arrows are pointing to the aluminum tube and that electrical conduit that I'm going to have to remove. So there's the control kit, that aluminum tubing, the flexible conduit, that faceplate in the back, and that screw right there are all coming off. So I'm going to start with the control kit, removing the screws to reveal all the wires behind it. Now through that flexible conduit, we're going to have a ground wire, black and white. And you can see the ground was attached in that wire nut, and then the black and white with screws. Now just untwisting this will help remove it, but what I recommend is to take lots of pictures. You can see that the white is connected to that middle screw on the left-hand side and the black to that right-hand screw. But take pictures. I always recommend taking pictures with your phone. It takes a few extra seconds, but you can ensure to have a proper connection when you go to hook it all back together. So here's a few pictures of me just removing the ground wire, again, the black wire, and the white wire. And then it all just slips out. Now, I recommend saving this connector here because the new kit that I ordered does not come with one, and most likely yours won't either. So, with that electric taken care of, we're going to move on and just untwist that aluminum tubing with a set of wrenches, holding one and then twisting that other one off. Then, we'll move on to the screw and just undo this screw here. And then once we've got that out, one more thing to disconnect, and that's the faceplate. Now, I didn't have a pair of snips with me when I did this, so it was a little tedious, but I finagled it a bit, mangled it a bit, and eventually ripped it out of there. So, that's the aftermath of that. That's what happens when I can't find my tin snips. Anyway, then I went to the outside, undid those 4 screws in the corner, and it was pretty neat and kind of gross, but the whole unit just pulled straight out of the wall, and I tossed it on the ground because I'm not doing anything with it at the moment, and you'll see that big hole that's currently in my wall. So let's go to the inside and start the install. And again, there's the hole from the inside. Now for the install, here's the kit. Now if you notice that aluminum tube is straight, I did have to make a quick hardware store run during this installation just so I can bend that without getting any kinks, but it only took a few minutes to do that. So there I am, screwing each of the 4 screws back in. I'll probably update the screws at some point, but they're good for now. And it slipped right on in through the wall. Might have to twist it a little bit to get it to slide in, but there it goes. So for the inside installation, we're going to start in the reverse order. We're going to put that faceplate on first, which takes a little finagling. I actually had to pop that one screw out to really get it to slide on, but I put that right back on once I was done. And then for a temporary hold, I screwed that exhaust in and I pinched it between a screw, but I updated it later, drilling a hole through and putting a new screw in it, just to ensure that that connection was solid. Now, next, I'm going to put the wiring in. So you see here, it didn't have that connector, so slip the old one right back on, and it fits right on in. Just reverse your ordering, tighten it down, screw it on, and then we're going to connect the wires. And this is where, if you took pictures beforehand, it's going to be super handy. So make sure you connect the ground. So the white went into that middle screw connection, and the black actually went into that screw that's pictured on the right there in that set of 3. It went right on top of the red, or at least that's how my setup was. Then I got the pipe bender. Like I said, I had to make a quick hardware store run, but I slowly bent it until it was at the right angle to where I could connect it back into place. And they do supply you with the connections, and then that's it. Just flip it on from there, and it's running. So what did it actually cost me? First of all, I found out I didn't actually need a control kit. When I got online and did some research, the new power venter that I got connected directly into the old control kit, because that wasn't what was broken. It's just the motor in this power venter that's broken. So why replace a control kit when that works perfectly fine? So I found the model that I showed you earlier, and that cost me $340. So I included the taxes in this price that I'm about to show, and I got free overnight shipping, so it arrived on Friday for $365. Now, this definitely wasn't a 2-person job, so I did it by myself, so the labor was free, and it took me only about 3 hours. And that included a quick run to get a pipe bender that I didn't have. So if you want to throw an extra $15 in for the pipe bender. But anyway, that's what it cost, $365. So from what they quoted me to what it actually cost me, that's savings of $735. Now, if you found this video helpful and I saved you a little bit of money, if you feel so inclined, go ahead and buy me a beer. I'll put a link in the description below so you can figure out how. And before you go, click that like button and subscribe to my channel for some more quick DIY projects.